My name is Paul Jung Bae. I work at J Partners and Architects based on Seoul. We do high-end residentials and museums, many types of projects. For me, architecture design means something that when it's done, it will improve users' life. I think that's the definition of good design.
大家好，我是ArchipapaX专业点。今天我们很高兴来到裴建筑师的事务所来访问 Paul， 他是当代韩国年轻建筑师一代很有名的一个建筑师。Paul, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paul Jung Bae. I'm with J Partners and Architect based in Seoul. I'm really happy to be part of this interview. Hopefully I can convey my architecture career path and then some of the exciting project that I'm currently working on right now.
Okay, let's start with why you want to become an architect.
My adolescent period, my young sort of period is kind of unique. I was actually born in Rome. I lived there for quite a bit. And then I moved to Japan. I lived there quite a bit up until I returned to Korea to go to college. But however, I lived in these very sort of culturally rich countries. And since I was young, I was just very intrigued and interested in sort of artistic or, very like cultural things. I used to make scrapbooks out of like a interior designer book. My mom studied interior design in Rome. So I always sort of drawn into, pretty things, so-called. And then when I moved to Japan, that was when I was in high school. In my school, there was an architecture class. I tried out and I really enjoyed making models and drawing things. So I asked my parents, what if I become an architect to make a living out of it? And then they were kind of relieved because they knew I wanted to be some kind of artist, but then architecture, they were confident that I won't be a starving artist. Engineer was really popular back then as well. So they were like, okay, they approved. So I went to college in Seoul as an architecture major. It really helped me a lot seeing great buildings, sort of old traditional buildings in Italy and also like a modern high-tech buildings in Japan. So that all kind of influenced me to pursue this career.
So what happened after your college? You went to States?
I went to United States to study further as a grad student. So there is where I really got into got serious with architecture study. I went to University of Michigan. The winter is long, so I'm trapped. So I studied lots of great, architects, Alvaro Siza and the modern architects, Zaha Hadid. And I really learned sort of general attitude towards architecture. You have to be rigorous. You have to relentless to pursue this career. And I also found that I really do like architecture. I spent lots of nights in studio and I was happy to do that. And after graduating from University of Minnesota, during one of my break, I traveled to California. This is where I should be. I need to, warm myself up a little bit. So I moved to San Jose. That was my first professional career. It was a mid-sized firm and does local projects. That's where I learned sort of basic like programs, AutoCAD and 3D program and so forth. So after working there for about 5 years, I decided I want to go to a bigger city because I grew up in a bigger city when I was a kid. So I'm probably lookingmək something more suits me. So I applied to a company called KPF in New York. And actually one of the driving force of that deciding to move to New York was also I was single back then. And San Jose is really more of like a male engineer. So I moved to New York and that's where I really got to sort of experience the international standard of architecture. KPF does a lot of international big scale projects. I have an opportunity to really understand the system of architecture. If you want to do high standard quality, you need to have a system. You need to have certain way of communicating with people. So that's where my architecture sort of really took off, understanding. And what I learned from KPF became my sort of foundation till now. So school is about 7 years. And then 5 years in San Jose, close to like 8 years in KPF. Until I returned to Korea, it's about 13 years like practice.
Yes. It's really a very impressive journey that you have before opening up your office. Who really influenced you in terms of this? You find you are really into architecture. What's the moment?
I think a lot of, including myself, struggle to sort of come up with the design of the building and things like that, because you start from scratch, just empty paper, and you get a first assignment of design a house. So it was really tough. All of us drew something sort of didn't make sense, I guess. But there was a class that we have to draw a detail. I sort of submerged myself. It was like a wood and steel combined detail, drawing on it. And I submerged myself like about a week, just focus on drawing it. It's not like something I'm creating something, it's more like someone understanding the detail and drawing of it. The professor who was in charge of that class select 1 or 2 students who did pretty well, and I was selected. That's sort of the moment. If I focus and work on this, is something that other people could appreciate, even though right now I don't know much and I'm lost. So that gave me sort of I got positive feedback from a professor. And so when I went to graduate school, I was introduced to sort of open-minded young architecture. Beside the homework or the school task, I worked on like competition with them. It was really interesting to see how passionate they were, how dedicated they were. And then I did like a summer intern at one of my professor's office. That also helped me understand what like a real world is like.
Every little things matter. So let's talk about KPF. I mean, that is really 8 years in KPF. That's a really big influence. Yeah. So how you learn and grow up, become a very mature architect in the KPF.
The very first project that I worked on was a student service center in University of Minnesota. The project was already started. When I joined the firm, I joined from a design development phase. Before that, I was interested in design. I wanted to, do like a design part of it. But I realized that there are a lot more in architecture than just design. For this particular project, I was assigned to carry on until construction administration. So I would go out to the site every 2 weeks to fly out to Minnesota from doing the groundwork to completion of the building. And that really gave me a new understanding, like an opening of like a new world of architecture. What we see is not everything about architecture. Behind the finish, there's insulation, there's structure, and so much more. So after that experience, I was drawn into architecture even more. And then after completing that, I was involved with bigger projects. Lotte World Tower, it happened to be in Seoul. It's a 125th story. It involved with many consultants. You walk into a conference room meeting with 60 people, different consultants.
They're not just training you as a designer, they're also training you become a project architect, and then above become a project manager. You know how the projects go from design to complete. Are they intentionally training this way, or that's just the way it is in the KPF office?
One thing unique about KPF is a very big firm, but then within the big firm, there's like a studio system in it. It's like large, big firm having many like atelier size studio. You were involved in competition, and then you won the competition. Then you actually get to work on that project, and then if that project survives all the way through, then you get to experience from beginning till the end. It could be inefficient as an office, as a employee try to grow. I think is a great way of learning, because you get to experience from beginning all the way to the end. That's general system within KPF. And then there's 2 sort of track. One is like a designer track, and then there's like a project manager track. Like in the beginning, if you're a junior, if you just go in there, there's no particular track that you have to follow. But then if you become intermediate and a little bit more senior, then you kind of have to decide which track you're going to go. Are you going to manage the team, manage the budget, schedule, that's the project manager side, or you're going to be sort of the designer side? In the earlier portion of my career at KPF, I was sort of doing everything, I guess. I'm not so, and then towards latter part of it, I'm more on the project manager side, working, with the consultants, figuring out the technical part and so forth.
Trained as a designer, it's more important for you to gain more knowledge about the project architect's role, the project manager's role. That way you can really coordinate, integrate everything. When you come back to Korea, all this knowledge become the foundation of Japan. Let's do a comparison, because you talk about a KPS studio type of operation. The project actually work in a small group, but there are other big companies that the design team is designing construction documents. So do you have any experience of how you compare these two different operations?
I didn't experience it firsthand, but actually even within KPF, there's competition team that only does competition. And there is like a CA team. If you talk about efficiency, that could be more efficient because you'll be really fast at doing something that you've done before. In general, and I was lucky to be experiencing from the beginning to the end. Also, I think I was sort of lucky that many of the projects that I did went all the way through construction completion. These are like very big projects. Many of the big projects tend to be on hold and gets canceled and things like that. I think in a larger firm, there's many different mix of system going on. Yeah.
Talk about KPF's project. Which project that you think is the most influential for you when you are in KPF?
The last one that I worked on is called Royal Atlantis Hotel, Dubai. I worked on this project for 2 years. This is on the Palm Island. Essentially consists of hotel and a condominium. And then there's a bridge connecting to it. The idea was that to create this whole here, if you know Dubai, there's like a 2 artificial island. It's sort of like a business driven as well. Design wise, it's very powerful to have a whole, but then also to create this special suite, you come out, you get your own like very large pool as if you're on a ground level. You get an ocean on both sides. You get the cool breeze. Actually, they're not stacked at the same location. It moves back and forth. So creating this more undulating, kind of more dynamic facade. Hospital, technically there's so many things going on. This is a 5-star or above hotel. The customer should never intersect with a staff member. So you need a completely 2 separate circulation. There is like a restaurant, there's fitness. It's all programmed, and then the guest room, obviously, everything combined in one building with all this like dynamic circulations. There's like a service elevator, brings up your like food for the room service, but then there's no corridor connecting to it. So the solution is having a many vertical circulation. It's like double, triple vertical circulation with this massing moving back and forth, but then everything needs to be hidden. I think it's 80-meter span or something very big. And then this is all mini trusses here. So mini bridges holding up the upper portion of it. That was also a challenge as well. It's supposed to open up sooner, but then there is like a COVID and everything happened. So I think it opened up in 2023. They invited Beyonce and everybody had a big opening, and then is one of the most luxurious hotel. There was so many nights and the days that I stayed at, like office, try to resolve the issue. And having sort of gone through this kind of project, I'm confident of like solving all the issues. Now I'm very confident that, like any small issue, that daily issue that I run into nowadays, it's like, oh, no problem, I can solve. And the other is the Lotte World is in my hometown, Seoul. We call it the vertical city because it has office, hotel, and then retail, and all the cultural facility. Everything is stacked on top of each other. You can just live there forever. You don't have to leave the building. The 2 things comes into my mind, which was kind of challenging, is the structure is a tall building. So it needs to be structurally sound, but also it needs to be light in structure. If you put too much weight on the structure itself, something that structure needs to take care of even more. So it needs to be light. The other thing is the elevator. There, I think, close to about 70 elevator. There's elevator going up, stopping at a certain point. There is like a sky lobby. So you another elevator bank starts. There's a basement parking, and then the retail. For this project, we had 2 consultants. We had local consultants, meaning structure MEP engineer. We have like a New York team. And then also this building is getting built in Seoul. So we have the Seoul team. Weekly, there's thousands of comments going back and forth. And architecture role is the leader to carry this entire team. So you have to be aware of all this, what's happening, what's going on. That process lasts a couple of years. Your energy level needs to be high up to continue carry on. When it's complete and actually came to see, you cannot see the end from the ground. At the end of the project, they get a signature of everybody who was involved. They have like a sculpture of it in front of the buildings. Even if my name wasn't on it, it was rewarding, but it was proud, and my daughter is proud of it. She goes to school. My dad built Lotte World Tower. So
after KPF, well, what makes you decide to come back to Korea and then have your own practice?
Actually, this the J Partners Architects is founded by my father-in-law, and then my wife, who I met at KPF, she's also an architect. So we're like an architecture family firm. Around 2015, he was like, "Oh, do you want to join me and grow this office together?" And so I said, okay, it's time for me to return to Korea, do my own kind of practice with father-in-law. After returning, a lot of things were different from what I expected. First thing was my role has changed dramatically. Before, I was in a large firm, and I was employee. I was part of one or two projects, but then I returned here and I was on the other side. I was someone who has to provide a task, so I have to learn the business side of the architecture as well. The size of the firm is different. Client that I meet is different. The building code is different, regulation and the custom, tradition, everything is different. When I first came here, it was like learning from the start.
This is an interesting part. You have to learn the business side of architecture because of you really step in for the J Partners. So talk about the business side first. I mean, for the marketing side. For me, marketing is very strategically issue. So you come in to J Partner, you have a J Partner company to work with. This is good. Yeah. You are not really start from scratch. So at that moment, how many people in J Partner and what kind of work you have and what's the next step you provide for J Partner? So talk about this period, when you step in and how you imagine yourself to become a way you are at least now. I think you have bigger vision, but talk about the beginning of coming in.
I come in here, I'm still in the KPF mode, kind of employee mode. I come here, I do great design and I apply what I've learned. That was the mentality I stepped into. I mean, obviously some of it helped, my attitude towards architecture, bringing sort of the international standard and work ethic. So when I first joined, it was a little bit smaller. It's like a 5-people firm. We had some projects, but then a lot of it didn't go all the way through. And we reached the point of whether should we close the firm. My father-in-law, his career was ending versus our career was taking. There was a time where we have to make a serious decision. And then we decided, okay, let's work for another 6 months. Wow. And if nothing happens, we'll just call it quit and then we go our own way. It hit me. This is a reality. It's very hard to survive. It's a very hard thing. Even if you're talented, you need to be at the right place at the right time, meet the right client. Luckily, within that 6 months, we got an interior project. It's a remodeling project that made us survive another 6 months. Within that additional 6 months, we met a couple of young developers in Korea, introduced by my friend. Those developers, they were young, they were starting their business, and they wanted a young architect. So that was like a really turning point for us. And the economy was really stable back then. This is, I think, before COVID. So we partner up, and then that's where our firm kind of became stable. We hired more. We're 15 and more growing. Working with a Korean developer, not easy. Background of myself and the developers are very different. The way communicating and everything different. But then we were aiming for a same goal. We want to make a very successful building. So we work very hard, and then we have 2 successful buildings on the main boulevard of Seoul.